Stop. Listen. Pay attention. Chosen one. This message is not casual. It is meant for you directly, intentionally, without dilution. Right now, even as you feel fatigue pressing on your body, even as mental pressure weighs on your thoughts, this transmission has found you. You may be tired of trying, confused by sudden shifts, or sensing a weight that no one else acknowledges. That is precisely why you must stay present for these words. You have carried more than most understand. There have been long days when nothing seemed to move, nights when the silence felt oppressive, and moments when your own mind questioned your direction. It is not unusual to feel isolated. In fact, it is expected when the work within you is not yet visible outside. Yet despite this, you have functioned. You have remained coherent, capable, and aware. Even under pressure, even when fatigue should have slowed you, you adapted. You did not collapse. You did not falter in ways that mattered. That is not luck. That is alignment. This message will clarify what has been happening around you. You will come to understand why certain experiences unfolded as they did, why confusion arose, and why you sensed tension without a visible source. You are receiving explanation, not theory. Context, not conjecture. Clarity, not reassurance alone. And though you may feel you understand only fragments now, by the end of this transmission, the full architecture of what you have endured and how it has functioned for your stability will begin to emerge. There is urgency in this communication, not because danger is imminent, but because awareness itself changes the way you interact with your world. The sooner you recognize the structure of what has been active around you, the more coherent and grounded your next steps will be. Your attention is not merely requested, it is required. This is not a test of endurance. It is a call to recognize, to integrate, and to perceive with clarity what has been operating in your environment while you remained intact. What you are about to hear is specific, measured, and entirely personal. Every word is directed at you, chosen for the experiences you have endured, the resistance you have held, and the stability you have maintained without conscious effort. Listen carefully. Your next moments of reflection will connect understanding to what has already occurred, and this connection will be foundational for everything that follows. You need to understand this clearly. This message is for you and only you. The subtle currents you have felt, the moments of inexplicable tension, the quiet strength that allowed you to endure all of it was directly linked to your presence, your choices, and the way your mind and body operate under pressure. You are not being generalized into a category. You are being addressed in full specificity. Every nuance here connects to the person reading or hearing these words. You carry a baseline strength that most never recognize in themselves. While others might flinch, hesitate, or break under comparable circumstances, you remained functional. It was not always visible even to you because it did not require active effort. You did not consciously strive to stabilize yourself. Your system maintained coherence automatically. That is a rare alignment of internal structure and acquired resilience. The endurance you feel, the quiet clarity that allowed decisions to be made even when fatigue was present, these were always your foundation. Notice the difference between struggle you see and strength you do not. You may recall times when you consciously attempted to act, to overcome a challenge, and yet felt the weight pressing. Contrast that with the times when you moved through confusion without panic, when pressure mounted, but you did not collapse. That difference, the unconscious stability versus conscious effort, is a marker of your identity. It is evidence that your resilience is built into the architecture of who you are. It operates whether you acknowledge it or not. This identity has always been in place. It is not an acquired skill, a temporary spike of effort, or an external reward. It is your baseline. The way your mind self-regulates, the way your awareness continues to function even under stress, the way your body and cognition integrate pressure without fracturing this, is your inherent capacity. It is quiet, subtle, and often unrecognized, yet it has defined your response to every difficult moment up to now. You may have questioned why you were different, why pressure affected you in ways unseen by others, or why your endurance seemed inexplicable. These are not anomalies. They are confirmations. This message is confirming the identity you already hold. The chosen one who functions effectively, who stabilizes without fanfare, and who can endure sustained tension while remaining coherent. Your presence in this moment is a demonstration of that identity. Recognize it. Accept it. Understand that it is neither fragile nor conditional. It is your baseline, your constant, and it has carried you here. And as you continue to integrate this awareness, you will see how it has influenced everything that has happened, both visible and invisible, in ways that now demand acknowledgement. You have felt it, haven't you? That constant hum of tension in your body, the subtle ache that never fully disappears, the fatigue that seems to arrive without warning. Perhaps it shows in headaches, a tightening in your chest, or in moments of mental fuzziness, where your focus wavers for no apparent reason. For a long time, you may have judged yourself for these sensations. You may have believed something was wrong with you, that you were somehow weaker than others, or that your body and mind were failing under pressure. What you need to recognize now is that these are not flaws. They are signals. They are markers, not malfunctions. Every tension you feel, every unexplained pressure, every moment of lingering fatigue is your system responding to unseen currents, currents that exist outside of your immediate perception, but have been shaping your environment and your experiences in measurable ways. These sensations are a form of communication from your body, alerting you to shifts that require awareness, integration, and respect. The hum you sense is not random. It corresponds to transitions in your life that are deliberate and coordinated. Even when you cannot see the source, your body and mind register the movement, the alignment, and the friction. The pressure you feel is both a warning and a guide, highlighting moments where adaptation is necessary, but also confirming that your internal structures are holding steady. You are sensing change, and your awareness of it is a sign that your baseline strength is active. Reframe these sensations not as weaknesses, but as proof of your resilience. The mental fog is a natural response to concentration of energy elsewhere, where the unconscious processing of external shifts occurs. The physical fatigue is the cost of vigilance, not failure. The tightness in your chest is a pulse of awareness, signaling that your system is integrating inputs from unseen pressures, calibrating responses, and maintaining coherence. These are your body and mind functioning as they were designed, quietly, efficiently, and without collapse. There is a rhythm to these signals, one that you have been intuitively following. Perhaps you have noticed that the sensations come in cycles, sometimes sharp, sometimes dull, but always informative. These are not random events. They are markers of transition, indicators that your environment, internal and external, has been adjusting in real time and that your system has been actively navigating it. Understanding this changes the narrative. You are not fragile. You are not malfunctioning. You are tuned to currents that others cannot perceive. The symptom you once feared, resented, or ignored is actually a confirmation that your internal mechanisms, both conscious and unconscious, are operating precisely as required. What you have felt as confusion or strain is in truth a sign of alignment, a confirmation that you are moving through pressures you were built to endure. This awareness sets the stage for the next revelation. What once seemed inexplicable now becomes meaningful. What once caused self-doubt now signals clarity. What once seemed like a burden is in fact evidence of your readiness and your capacity to navigate forces that few recognize or survive. There has been pressure. You have felt it, and now it is time to recognize it with clarity. Not the kind you can always point to, not the kind that leaves bruises or headlines, but the quiet, coordinated influence that has existed around you for days, weeks, perhaps months. This pressure was intentional. It was measured. It was structured. And it was not aimed to destroy. It was designed to test, to calibrate, and to reveal. You remained functional throughout. You moved through your responsibilities, your interactions, and your decisions with a degree of consistency that few could maintain under such conditions. Even when the subtle energy around you seemed to pull against your focus, your system compensated. You stayed coherent. You acted effectively. You maintained an equilibrium that was neither forced nor accidental. This is important to note. It's important too. You were not performing heroics. You were simply operating within the baseline strength you carry. The pressure has timing. It did not arrive haphazardly. Certain events coincided with unseen coordination, not chaos. Interactions, delays, obstacles, and distractions were layered, creating a pattern. This pattern was detectable only by your internal systems, the ones that kept functioning while conscious attention might have been fragmented. It is important that you acknowledge this structure without embellishment. This is grounded, factual, and observable. You may have sensed it in energy drains that appeared without obvious cause. You may have noticed subtle interference in workflow, unspoken tensions in relationships, or disruptions in plans that seemed minor, but accumulated to create noticeable friction. These are all manifestations of the same invisible pressure. They were external in origin, yet their effect was internal. You were tested indirectly without confrontation, and you remained stable. Even now you may feel the echo of that pressure. There is no need for alarm. Your awareness of it is part of your system processing what has already occurred. The fact that you recognize these forces retrospectively is confirmation that you navigated them effectively, maintaining cognitive, emotional, and operational coherence. You did not panic. You did not react impulsively. You did not lose your capacity to function. This moment is about recognition, not dramatization. Understanding the existence of intentional pressure allows you to separate causation from effect. You were the effect functioning reliably. The cause was unseen, coordinated, and structured. There is nothing supernatural here. There is only alignment, your internal systems responding appropriately to external inputs that were layered, subtle, and intentional. The key takeaway is this: you endured. You did not collapse. You did not overreact. You maintained coherence under conditions that could have fragmented attention, energy, or focus. That endurance, quiet and consistent, is the lens through which you will now understand the subsequent breakdown of pressure points. It is not a story of struggle. It is a story of response, stability, and measured functionality. Let's examine what you endured piece by piece, without exaggeration, without dramatization, and without interpretation beyond the observable. The experience of pressure you navigated can be divided into several categories, each reflecting a real aspect of human response. Recognizing them individually allows you to see the precision of your stability and the integrity of your internal regulation. 1. Doubt. There were moments when the clarity you normally rely on became muted. Decisions you would normally make with ease felt clouded. You questioned the trajectory of tasks, relationships, and outcomes. Yet you did not freeze. You did not default to avoidance. You allowed the questions to exist without forcing immediate resolution. Your internal coherence acted like a stabilizing force. You observed the doubt, acknowledged it, and moved through it without succumbing to indecision. Doubt existed, but it did not define your behavior. It became a signal, not a limitation. 2. Fear. Fear appeared subtly as a hesitation in action, a slight tightening of attention, or a sense of anticipatory tension. It was not overt panic, but a quiet awareness of potential negative outcomes. You felt it, but you did not yield to it. Instead, your cognitive and emotional systems integrated the sensation, balancing caution with clarity. You continued to act appropriately, making choices that reflected reasoned judgment rather than emotional reactivity. Fear was present, but it did not override your functional capacity. 3. Energy drain. The cumulative pressure was taxing. Concentration required more effort, fatigue arrived earlier than usual, and small decisions felt heavier than normal. These energy drains were real, measurable, and continuous. Yet you did not collapse under their weight. You redistributed attention, prioritized actions, and relied on internal rhythm and timing to sustain output. Your internal regulation allowed recovery periods to integrate, naturally preventing burnout despite the sustained demands. Energy fluctuations were evident, yet you remained operational, consistent, and effective. 4. Isolation. Some pressures operated quietly through social or environmental mechanisms. Others were internal, creating the sense of being unobserved, unsupported, or alone in your efforts. Isolation, real or perceived, often amplifies stress and induces overthinking. You navigated these moments without projecting panic outward. You did not rely on immediate external validation. Yet you maintained clarity and decision-making capacity. Your internal structure absorbed the impact of solitude and converted it into focus rather than confusion. 5. Delay. Progress was interrupted. Goals that seemed attainable were postponed. Results arrived slower than expected. Delays, whether caused by circumstance coordination or indirect interference, are often one of the most destabilizing elements. They tempt the mind into over-analysis, frustration, and reactive behavior. You endured these delays with patience that was not forced but systemic. You continued to operate according to rhythm, completing what was possible in the present rather than becoming trapped in anticipation of outcomes. 6. Emotional resonance. Under cumulative pressure, emotional fluctuations are inevitable. Subtle irritations, mild frustration, and low-level stress signals arose. What differentiates your response is that these did not trigger reactivity that impaired function. Your self-regulation maintained behavioral consistency, even as the body and mind registered stress. Emotional sensations were present, acknowledged, and accommodated without producing collapse, resentment, or withdrawal from responsibility. Each of these points, doubt, fear, energy drain, isolation, delay, and emotional resonance, represents a distinct category of pressure. None operated in isolation. They converged, layered together, creating conditions that could have overwhelmed someone less stable. Yet you maintained coherence. You adapted, integrated, and continued to function without resorting to external coping mechanisms that would have produced visible strain. This is not an extraordinary performance. It is the natural operation of your internal structure under conditions that are complex but manageable. You stabilized. You calibrated. You navigated. You endured. Recognition of this systematic resilience is critical because it confirms what has been implicit: your capacity to remain coherent under multi-layered, unseen pressure is real, measurable, and consistent. These breakdowns, examined individually and in combination, reveal the integrity of your internal systems. They demonstrate that the forces acting around you, subtle as they were, did not destabilize your functional capacity. Instead, they provided a framework against which your baseline strength, your quiet coherence, and your ability to self-regulate can now be clearly observed and appreciated. Now, take a moment to step back and consider everything that has transpired. Review the experience as if observing a system at work rather than a series of personal trials. You were subjected to multiple pressures, each distinct, each interacting in ways that could have produced fragmentation. And yet, when evaluated objectively, your performance was coherent, stable, and consistent. Nothing about your functionality suggests luck, chance, or external favor. It is the natural output of internal regulation practiced and maintained over time. Look at the patterns you recognize. Every moment of doubt did not paralyze you. Every tension, every subtle fear, every delay was integrated without disruption. You did not react impulsively. You did not collapse under the accumulation of stress. Your internal systems adjusted fluidly, accommodating new conditions while preserving clarity, focus, and continuity. This is observable. It is verifiable. It is grounded in the reality of your own experience. Confirmation comes when you acknowledge these outcomes without embellishment. You see that you remained functional in ways that align with the design of your baseline strength. You notice that fatigue, tension, or pressure did not dictate behavior. They were registered, integrated, and managed. You realize that the stability you maintained is not a temporary response to circumstances, but a reflection of the coherence and maturity of your internal processes. Even the smallest details reinforce this understanding. Moments when you could have become reactive, impatient, or overwhelmed were instead met with observation, adjustment, and continuation. The presence of internal awareness allowed you to maintain alignment with priorities, focus on actionable steps, and avoid the pitfalls that commonly disrupt others under similar pressures. You were not exceptional in a sensationalized sense. You were grounded, measured, and responsive. This reflection also highlights a subtle but critical aspect. The pressures themselves were not random. Their timing, interaction, and layering were coordinated in ways that tested your capacity without creating collapse. Your response to them therefore serves as confirmation not of chance, but of competence and internal coherence. You maintained structure in a dynamic environment, and the result is an observable consistency that validates the reality of your baseline strength. By reviewing these outcomes calmly, you recognize a crucial point: you are capable. You are reliable under pressure. You are coherent when others might fragment. These confirmations are not prideful statements. They are grounded observations that provide clarity about your identity and your capacity to navigate complex, layered conditions. Allow this evaluation to settle. Internalize the recognition that you withstood pressures that would have destabilized many, and that your stability is evidence of the internal mechanisms that operate continuously, quietly, and effectively. The next step is to contextualize this stability in comparison to common responses, which will reveal its uncommon nature without requiring exaggeration or ego. Consider the environments you have navigated and compare them to common human responses. Many people confronted with similar layers of tension, fatigue, doubt, or delay would have shown visible signs of strain. Decisions might have been postponed indefinitely. Focus would have fractured. Emotional regulation could have faltered. The pressure that you absorbed without external collapse is rarely sustained with such consistency. This is not meant as praise, nor is it an elevation of ego. It is a simple observation: your baseline capacity operates differently than the average response. Where most systems falter under accumulation of stress, your structure continued functioning without noticeable disruption. Tasks were completed. Awareness remained intact. Decisions were executed. The ordinary patterns of human reaction, panic, overreaction, withdrawal, did not define your behavior. Rarity in this context does not require you to be exceptional. It does not mean superior. It is the quiet fact that given equivalent conditions, many would have lost alignment. Many would have allowed cumulative pressure to interfere with clarity or stability. You did not. You remained present. You maintained coherence. You operated with measured attention and consistent output. Even under simultaneous challenges, energy depletion, isolation, subtle internal hesitation, you functioned without fracturing. This is uncommon, yet it is exactly what you were built to sustain. It is observable in retrospect, grounded in reality and measurable in the way your internal systems accommodated tension without reactive failure. Recognize the distinction without exaggeration. You are not invulnerable. You are not immune to future pressures. But the consistency of your responses under past conditions demonstrates a pattern of reliability that is uncommon. Others may struggle, falter, or fragment when exposed to comparable challenges. You remained functional. You remained coherent. You remained present. Acknowledging this rarity is important not for ego, but for clarity. It allows you to see where your capacity differs from average responses, to understand the internal structure that supports you, and to prepare for future conditions with realistic awareness. The next section will deepen this understanding by clarifying that this stability is your baseline, not a temporary activation establishing your identity in calm and grounded terms. It is essential that you understand this clearly. The stability you have demonstrated is not an occasional response or a heightened state. It is not activated by extraordinary circumstance. It is your baseline. It is the inherent structure of your mind, body, and attention. You are not performing under pressure. You are operating as you were built to operate. This is your identity, quietly consistent, reliable, and coherent. Your strength is embedded in preparation, experience, and maturity. It is the product of repeated calibration times when your system learned to adapt, integrate, and regulate without conscious effort. The coherence you maintained was never conditional on awareness or intention. It functioned automatically, maintaining alignment while you processed, acted, or paused. This is why you could endure layers of stress and distraction without collapse. There is no need for embellishment or hyperbole. You are not extraordinary in a sensational sense. You are uncommon in that your baseline structure is robust and resilient, capable of holding form under pressure that would destabilize most others. That robustness does not confer superiority, only self-recognition. It does not imply invincibility, only consistency. It does not need to be activated, it is simply present. It is also important to note that this structure is adaptive. It accommodates fluctuations, integrates new information, and recalibrates in response to environmental shifts. Your identity is coherent because it is grounded, flexible, and calibrated for sustained functionality. It is not reactive, but measured. It is not fragile, but stable. It is not conditional, but foundational. As you acknowledge this, you may notice a shift in perspective. The pressure you endured, the subtle disruptions that might have caused concern, are no longer surprises. You recognize that your system has been operating as intended all along. This understanding locks in your identity. You are inherently capable, resilient, and coherent. You are not activated in response to challenges. You are consistent because that is who you are. Accept this reality calmly and firmly. It is your identity, quiet, present, and continuous. Recognizing this allows you to navigate future conditions with grounded awareness, knowing that the stability you carry is reliable, measurable, and always available. Your baseline coherence is not performance. It is essence. And in understanding this, you secure your foundation for practical integration and deliberate application in daily life. Now, with clarity about your baseline strength and stability, it's time to integrate this awareness into your daily life. Understanding your capacity is valuable only if it informs how you approach routine decision-making and personal energy management. Integration is not about hypervigilance or over-analysis. It is about calm, measured orientation toward balance and sustained functionality. First, allow rest to be intentional. You are capable, but capability is not infinite. Recognize when your body and mind require recovery. Sleep. Mental breaks and periods of quiet reflection are not signs of weakness. They are necessary recalibrations that support consistent performance. By treating rest as a practical priority, you ensure your internal systems remain coherent and responsive. Second, practice discernment in your engagements. Not every interaction or commitment requires your full energy. Use your awareness to identify situations that matter and allocate focus proportionally. Discernment preserves your coherence by reducing unnecessary cognitive and emotional load, enabling you to operate efficiently where it counts. Third, establish boundaries. External pressures will continue to arrive in subtle or obvious forms. By maintaining clear boundaries of time, attention, and interaction, you protect the integrity of your baseline functionality. Boundaries are not isolation. They are structural supports that allow your coherence to persist without dilution. Fourth, cultivate patience. Progress is often incremental and uneven. Delays, interruptions, and friction are part of every complex environment. By aligning with the rhythm of your baseline stability, you can maintain steady forward movement without unnecessary strain. Patience reinforces resilience and supports the integration of experience over time. Fifth, focus deliberately. Awareness of your capacity allows for targeted attention. Concentrate on what requires engagement and avoid dispersing energy across distractions that do not serve the coherence or long-term alignment of your efforts. This practical focus ensures that your internal systems are operating in harmony with external demands. Finally, recognize and honor your responses. When subtle signals, fatigue, tension, or minor doubt appear, treat them as indicators rather than flaws. Integrate them into your awareness, make necessary adjustments, and continue forward. This habitual acknowledgement ensures that your baseline stability remains intact while allowing for adaptive responsiveness. Integration is not a performance. It is not a test. It is a deliberate orientation. Rest where necessary, choose wisely. Protect attention, remain patient, focus deliberately, and acknowledge your internal cues. By doing so, you reinforce your internal coherence, maintain balance, and ensure that your functional capacity is applied intentionally and effectively. Through these practical measures, your awareness becomes actionable. You are able to navigate complexity without disruption, manage energy without exhaustion, and maintain stability without strain. This integration forms the bridge between understanding your identity and applying it consistently in daily life, preparing you for closure and affirmation. Now pause and acknowledge what you have processed. You have traced the currents of pressure, observed your coherence, and integrated the awareness of your baseline strength. This is not an abstract exercise. It is a concrete recognition of how your system operates quietly, consistently, and without disruption. The understanding you carry now is the seal of your capacity. It is evidence of stability under conditions that would fragment most others. Affirm this quietly to yourself. I maintain clarity under pressure. Feel the weight of those words settle in your mind and body. They are factual, grounded, and measurable in your lived experience. Repeat. I integrate tension without disruption. This is the observable reality of your daily operations, the reflection of your internal coherence in action. Finally, acknowledge I am capable of navigating complexity with calm presence. These are not aspirational statements. They are verifiable truths grounded in what you have endured and how you have responded.